We have a guest in the studio. Political analyst GERALD BITOK is here with us. Good morning, GERALD.
Good morning, Tisa. It's a pleasure to join you guys finally.
Good to have you in the show, and Asante for joining us.
I'm glad.
This issue, let's just begin from that point, okay? Wiper says they're going to court this morning. They those things. Okay? Should they be given the wedding certificate just to look at? What's wrong with that?
I mean, the demands that Wiper is making are very legit. And like you're saying, if we get married today and we have a certificate, as the wife, I should even have a copy, even if it's not the original. I should have the copy and I can refer to it sometimes and say, okay, so this girl has been beating me for 10 years now. What did we exactly agree with in this marriage? What is my exit clause? What was supposed to be my benefit? Because even as you speak, then the members don't even know what they're supposed to benefit from in terms of this agreement. And when you look at the way Kenyan politics is happening right now, actually, this is when politics has started. For all this time, we've not been politicking. We've just been moving around on rallies. This is when now it's beginning and it's going to shape up as we move forward. So when you look at the demands that Wiper is making, very legit, but it's a bit too late in the night, you know. It's a bit too late in the night, but in terms of political perception, they could make us sway.
They could.
They could make us sway. In terms of political perception, they could make us sway. And at this point, the politics as we move to the general elections will be majorly about perception. How do you look like as an outfit? How organized do you look like? How much do you attract other people to join you? So if when you look at Azimio and you look at Kenya Kwanza, if Kalonzo finally makes that switch, we'll join Alfred Mutua, who made a switch last week, Amason Kingi, who was from as well as Azimio, who made a switch the other day. So there could be some serious perception. If he remains in Azimio and he's not picked as a running mate, there is no news. But if he remains in Azimio and he's picked as a running mate, it could shape narrative in a different way. So let's watch it. But I don't know why Kalonzo had to wait for the last minute. That's the biggest problem with Kalonzo. Biggest undoing is dilly-dallying. You dilly-dally until nobody cares anymore about you.
You run out of time.
Yeah, so I don't understand.
Because I guess, at some point, it'll be too late to, we've been saying, okay, this grandstanding is just a move to negotiate. This grandstanding is a move to demand to be recognized. But at some point, you run out of time.
But you see, when you look at
you get to a certain point where your only options are, so you either just shut up
and stay,
or you walk. And when you're walking, you have to have sufficient momentum.
Plus where you're going.
To carry you wherever you want to go.
When you look at Azimio, when you talk about negotiations, I don't see it anywhere. I don't know where you've seen negotiations. I've not seen it myself. I've only seen an interview. And
where? In Azimio?
Yeah. Where did you see negotiations?
Where, what do you mean?
Where did you see negotiations? Because even Kalonzo has been told point blank that if you want to leave, leave. Stop making noise inside this marriage. And it seems like there's someone who's pulling a card. There's a wild figure somewhere that keeps pulling these strings. And when you look at Azimio, they're not trying so hard to romanticize Kalonzo like they used to do. Like, Kalonzo, please don't go. We still love you. You're telling him, if you want to leave, you leave. So about negotiations, I don't see it happening. The grandstanding, of course, was for negotiation purposes, so that these people can feel, we are losing you. But then he has realized that these guys are not bothered. And that's why maybe he's making the move that he's making right now. So it's an act of desperation, in the sense that, we've tried all this, it's not working. So the next thing that we need to do maybe is to now finally move. So if he doesn't move, it's now at 11 a.m., it's a do or die for Kalonzo.
Wasn't the move a negotiation on his part? Weren't the things that we were hearing, the eruption here and there, weren't those attempts by him to negotiate? And then previously, when everybody was trying to romance Kalonzo Musyoka, and previously the response that he would have gotten was, all right, well, let's see what we can do. In this case, he didn't get an all right, let's see what we can do. The response was, well, look, all right, this is what you want, we cannot do it, so you're allowed to go. Wasn't the negotiation largely on his part? We may have seen it, the optics on the other side would have been like, take me or take me. But the truth of the matter was that he was the one who was doing the negotiation. So
if you want to understand how Azimio has been engineered, you have to understand it backwards. Look at it backwards. Where did it start, first of all? It started with an handshake that even the partners were saying you're not aware of. Even Kalonzo Musyoka, Musalia Mudavadi say they walk over, they saw Raila standing on at the footsteps of Arambe House, having an handshake. They felt they was not consulted on that. What followed was a process called BBI that many people have felt it was a blackmail of sorts, political blackmail. It went even to a point of bribing MCAs and all that to vote for it. After that, it came to formation of Azimio La Umoja that you've seen. Now, understand the reversely from that. What has Mudavadi said about the formation of Azimio? What has Wetangula said about the formation of Azimio? In his tantrums, what has Kalonzo said without saying? He has said without saying that there seems to be no room for negotiations and understanding within Azimio. And that's why he's been drawing all these tantrums that you're seeing around. If there was a negotiation at the back door, then he could be speaking about something that they've agreed on. And the document, they're talking about the document that was signed. They are saying this discreet. Even RPP does not have a copy. These guys, they took it, signed it, and they returned it back to them. And like what you were saying the other day, RPP leaked the Kenya Kwanza agreement, which was all over social media. Nobody has been able to leak an Azimio agreement. So it tells you that, contrary to what we want to believe outside here, there seems to have been no negotiation actually prior to the formation of Azimio. And that's why now at this point people are like, hey, na tunafika uchaguzi and we don't know what we have, what we are getting. We umesikia yako, we umesikia yako, siyasikia. So that is where the push and pull that you're seeing right now. But Uhuru Kenyatta, I don't know what he has in his mind. But the more you look at it, the more you start feeling like maybe Uhuru Kenyatta actually wanted to destroy NASA as it was formerly. It has totally disintegrated. Only Raila Odinga remaining. And Raila Odinga doesn't seem to be bothered at all. He seems to be facing a mountain that he expects a miracle from. He only knows. So if Kalonzo Musyoka balls out, then that will be the end of NASA as it was. But I don't understand the blackmail behind the agreement. That you cannot leave. Once you are in, you cannot leave. You're even saying Mutua is battling a case in court. Pa is battling a case in court of leaving Azimio. There seems to be a marriage of it's either you're staying here or you're not staying. So were there negotiations? I doubt if there were. Is there going to be any more negotiations? I'm not seeing them coming.
What I find interesting is that all this driving and moving to court is based on some agreements that people had signed. But what I found even more particularly interesting is that people signed documents and they want us to understand that they didn't read them and didn't understand. Now that is a bit beyond me. All these people, some of them lawyers, Kalonzo lawyer, Kingi lawyer, and you're telling me that beyond signing this document, prior to that, there were all sorts of either documents that had to be edited and versions produced, and all this time that these things were, because it wasn't just this is the document, sign it. There was a process.
But now these guys are not the first victims. Remember Mike Sonko? What happened to Mike Sonko?
But was Mike? No. You've gotten to the
About
heart
what?
of the matter, Mr. BITOK, because
He said the same thing. I was
that's
given
the
a
point.
document.
Am I to take what a politician says as being the truth and the only truth that I'm dealing with?
And that's what I'm telling you now.
Yes.
It's the same information that you're dealing with. You are talking about the agreement because they told us about it, that we didn't know what was there. But then again, it tells you about the deceit in Kenyan politics. The deceit and the lies and the betrayal that lies in Kenyan politics is so tasteless. If you have a national leader coming out to say, another leader gave me something to sign, I didn't read it, but I signed it, but I don't have a copy. I mean, they need to give us another story. They should tell us what they agreed on that they don't want to tell Kenyans about. So for me, that whole story exposes the deceit in Kenyan politics, that even the person who has been conned is refusing to tell us what he has been conned of. So for me, I think the document, whatever they had written in there, is so embarrassing that maybe none of them wants to talk about it. That's the only explanation I can give.
Actually, given that we're talking about politicians, the perspective you present is a possibility, but consider also, when politicians go to bargain, do they go to bargain for themselves? Do they go to bargain for their party? Do they mix the two? What is it which is at the forefront of the bargaining?
Politicians have never gone to bargain for anybody. They bargain for themselves.
Precisely.
Yes.
Now,
They've never gone to bargain
if you've
for
gone to bargain for yourself and also throw in your people while you're at it, we all understand, this is something we all agreed on, it's a consensus, that the power of your negotiations have to do with what you are, what we call you're bringing to the table.
Yes.
And Eric puts it, you have a problem because somebody comes to the table. So even as you're coming in, the person at the table has already brought the table. So you are joining them, not the other way around. Now, political negotiations, if we were to understand them, there is nothing like treachery in politics. The political terrain, as I see it, not just in Kenya, the world over, people saying this, changing their mind, turning around, switching, that is what you call the currency of politics. Now, when people say they were lied to, I'm repeating it. I have problems understanding this. Seasoned politicians signing documents that they don't know anything about.
Of whom have previously been part of coalitions.
Yes.
They've been part of coalitions before.
Yeah.
This is not a new phenomenon when it comes to Kenyan politics, that the coalition will take precedent over your single party kind of thing. So here we are being fed this narrative that they really did not know what's going on. I think that's the thing that is a bit confusing here, over and above what may have been in the writing or what may have been in the agreement that confuses us or befuddles us. I think the befuddling thing here is that seasoned politicians, for whom coalitions are not new to them, that they can come and then present a position where they are saying that we did not actually know what was going on or what was written in the document. I think that here is a fallacy.
But then again, it should be the honors of the drafters of this agreement to bring it out. It should be the honors of Raila Odinga and maybe Uhuru Kenyatta to bring it and say, okay, this is the document. This is what it was saying. Now, the people who are complaining are not showing us the copies and the copies. They're not telling us what is in the document. And the people who are being accused of deceit are not showing us the real document. So if, for argument's sake, if I'm accusing you, Eric, of malpractice in an agreement that we have, it's either I produce this as a complainant that's saying this is what we agreed on, this is what you've not done, or you bring it and say, this is what we agreed on and this is what I'm doing. So I worry more about the contents of that agreement. And I think on both ends, nobody wants to talk about it. So if let's not worry about the politicians and the complaints and the noises that are making. We want to know what was in this document that you're saying you signed and agreed on. If it's not going to come from Kalonzo and the other guys who are complaining, let it come from Uhuru Kenyatta, the chairman of Azimio, and Raila Odinga, the flag bearer of Azimio party. If that document is not produced, then it means all Kenyans have been conned.
How do you arrive at that conclusion? Because really, they are the ones who signed that agreement. I'm not even a part of that agreement. It's them, the politicians, doing their thing and agreeing. And since when have we actually ever been told of what politicians agree on?
But shouldn't that be a standard city? Because they're not signing. Alfred Mutua did not sign as citizen Alfred Mutua. He signed as party leader, Maendeleo Chapchap. There are people who are individuals who are members of Maendeleo Chapchap, if they haven't seen. If Kalonzo Musyoka signed or his officials signed, they signed as officials of Wiper. Wiper has ordinary members. Now,
Yes,
those
it
ordinary
does.
members are the person that GERALD is saying, they've all been conned.
Actually, I disagree. And why I disagree is the moment, let's take the view that they signed these things in the dark and they were using some fluorescent light or one of these.
And they signed with crayons.
Exactly. And they were not quite sure whether they actually signed along the dotted lines or on top of the dotted line, whatever the
Or
case
on the
may
table.
be. Yes. Now, if you know that this was the case, why do you make it an issue around the time when it has become hot that a running mate must be announced?
Madonna.
One person declares they are okay if they are dominated. Another, I mean, why now? If it was wrong before.
From the beginning.
Why did it become wrong at this particular point in time so that you're now making it an issue? That's why I raised the question.
And that's why I think Kenyans should not be pulled into these agreements that they are not willing to share. If you want us to argue about this agreement, give it to us as a public. We look into it. We'll tell you who has been conned, who has not been conned. But if you don't want to give us the details of that agreement, then you need to shut up and make a political decision. If you are living that, that formation that you believe has conned you, the better. If you're staying there, then stay quietly, because then how can we help you?
But then again, now if we just go with the same principle, BITOK,
Yes.
should all these coalitions be releasing there, not leaking, making proper public the documents that they have all signed?
What
Kenya
obligation-
Kwanza, what we are talking about is what has been leaked. We actually have not heard from the leader of Kenya Kwanza that, okay, what you're seeing in the public is actually the truth. He has not come out to say, yes, it is. Okay? It has just been leaked. It's going round. They have not confirmed or denied. But should they not have said, this is what we have agreed? In fact, take out pages in the paper and publish the entire coalition agreement.
When you look at the way this country is operated, it's operated like a narco state. Like everything is operated in secrecy. It operates like an underground, like an underworld thing. Because in a proper world, we should have those things even being ratified by Wananchi. The same way having Kenya Kwanza is having what we call the bottom-up economic charters that are being discussed across regions and they endorse it. They should also give us a document. We look at it and say, okay, this is how you guys want to share this national cake. Is there any backing that's going to happen? Is it enough for you to share? And then we can say, okay, fine, we are ready for it, and we can vote for you. When you look at even the campaign platforms that we are having, Azimio, what is the campaign platform for Azimio? I don't know, City, if you are aware. Is there any campaign platform for Azimio? What are they campaigning on?
Raila for president.
There's no other platform it's campaigning on.
It's Raila for president.
Well, now we talk
No,
about.
they have a lot, Buana. There's a Lopsita, Babacare. There's a lot.
So there's been an
economic.
evolving.
What is it called?
Economic
There's some
development.
economic development. Yes.
So I think there are documents that first of all must be ratified. First of all, you need to give us your campaign platform. That is number one. Number two, there's a very important document that I think it's time presidential candidates start signing. A national peace accord. That first of all, you're going to commit to having a peaceful electoral process. That two, you're going to accept the results of the elections. You're going to go to Kosarakas. They need to sign, all of them. Three, you need to tell us how you're going to share this thing. These Kenyans called 50 million. You're going to share. You think you're saying that you'll give us 30%, 20%. You need to give us as a public document and we can ratify. We are not going to live with the leakages. But even, okay, we are better off now as the government is not operated like an narco state, but you're getting some leakages. So we can at least negotiate that. Can they leak all of them? Can the RPP also leak for Azimio? We need to see all of them. Whether they've leaked or not, we need to see all of them.
The world over, what political parties decide among themselves as coalitions, they know among themselves. Now, what you're suggesting that let's get out of this normalcy that we say is global. Us as Kenyans, let's come up with something that gives us even better transparency. Yes. And I agree with you. There's no reason why we shouldn't. But the truth of the matter is, the way our political system function, the way our politicians function, are we saying that in this election they're suddenly going to move from what has been considered their norm into this new dispensation where they've suddenly become open? We are told what they want us to hear, what they want us to know. You see, political discussions, negotiations about power sharing and who gets what, the truth of the matter is it's one of the most guarded secrets. They simply never talk about it in the open. They never do. What you hear is rumblings. Oh, we thought we were going to get this. We didn't get this. That's what you hear. But as to the documentation, as to this was what was agreed upon,
you
never get to hear about it.
There's a normal and then there's ideal. And I think the ideal is for the country and the citizens who are going to work for these people to get the details of these agreements. Can Kenyans demand that? Yes, we can. For the first time in the Kenyan political history, we're having a conversation around the economy. Every other person is grappling with it. The reason why I ask you about Azimio and their platform, Azimio has evolved from social, we're going to give you 6,000. It went to Babacare, we're going to give you Babacare and these other things. Now it is at Pesa Mfukoni. You saw Raila Odinga yesterday, he had a cap written Pesa Mfukoni. Pesa Mfukoni. Pesa Mfukoni.
Elufsita.
No, see, Elufsita. Pesa Mfukoni in the sense that because now, but 6K was social protection for the families that are not able to care for themselves. But that's not the whole of the population in Kenyans. But it's speaking about building an economy where Kenyans have money in the pocket. So every other person now, kila mtu sasa hivi anangangania conversation around the economy.
Yes.
For the first time, Kenyans are demanding that we need to start talking about the state of the economy. Can we demand as well that these politicians are accountable to us? Yes, it's possible.
I agree that it's possible, but let me ask you this question. When you talk about the issues of the economy, it's sort of like taking center stage in our political discourse, more so at the presidential level. Do you really think that they are giving this topic a fair shake and actually discussing and telling us how it can be achieved? Statements, good. Blanket statements, even better. But how? Have you heard any presidential candidate telling you, this is how we are going to do it?
They're not putting meat to the conversation. What they're doing is they're responding and reacting to what they see the ground telling them. And that the country is yearning for a conversation about the economy and where to move. And so politicians, because they're very good at listening to the ground, they're like, aha.
That's what they want.
That's what they want. Let's talk. Let's tell them about it. Before, it used to be these small development projects. Shule hapa, hospitali pale, barabara hapa. And they'd come and say, hii barabara kutoka hapa Lukukuku mpaka Lukuya.
Yeah.
Tunajenga.
Yes, kutoka Gungulupa mpaka Gungulugi. Yes.
Tutajenga. Anyway, let's take a break at this point. It's 9:30, Kenya's biggest conversation. With us in the studio is the political analyst, GERALD BITOK. We are talking about politics. Kwanza, when we come out of this break, we'll talk about that whole fiasco that was happening in Karen on Saturday. 17 hours. 17 hours. And people would like us to believe that William Ruto was actually confused. For 17 hours. He was not sure. Okay, no, you guys, man. I mean, okay, so let's call 1,000 people.
Okay, so what do you want?
Okay, let's call the MPs. Ay, you people, bana. Simukubaliane.
Unataka nini?
Okay, wacha basi nitaamua. And they want us to believe that 17 hours for William Ruto to come to that point. And Raila Odinga, he said, saa 5 asubuhi kesho. It's about 1.5 hours from here. Will it be at 11 a.m.
Or 11 p.m.
Oh, 11 p.m.
59, 11:59.
11:59. Kenya's biggest conversation. Let's take this quick break.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Conversation continues. Eric Ndu CT and GERALD BITOK, who is a political analyst. We are talking about this headache, or maybe not, or the earthquake that is the running mate conversation. So earlier, William Ruto had said, running mate, that's the easiest decision for us, but can we talk about other things? Saturday, what was this that was happening? And Karen, you know you have friends in high places, GERALD.
I appreciate the
So
flattery.
what is it? What happened?
So you see, now it's easy until it gets to a point where you have to make a decision, and it's never been easy because it means interest as well. That people have interest, people have friends, and in politics, negotiations don't happen just as a hobby. You don't just come to have a story and say, "Oh, CT, oh my God, let's have a conversation." It's about interest. Even the best of your friend keeps pulling your shirt and saying, "What's in it for me?" So when it gets to that point, people start thinking for themselves as well. They start thinking, "Okay, what is in it for us? The guy that is getting in there, is it a guy that we have maybe a soft relationship with? Is it someone we can use to get where we want?" So when it gets to that point, of course, there has to be some level of diversion. And prior to that, there have been some very serious lobbying. For the first time, ever since the DP started these campaigns, they have never really been seen a visible campaign for anyone to be a running mate. And that's why we kept guessing. Could it be this guy? Could it be this guy? Could it be Waiguru? Could it be... Even Kindiki came the other day. Nobody was talking about Kindiki. When Speaker Muduri came in, we imagined that maybe it could be him, finally. And it turned out it wasn't him. So, of course, there was some interest that was playing out in terms of who the people who come from there feel they have the interest represented well, and who does DP himself as William Ruto feel that can help him run the campaign. Because when you understand about partnership in politics, it's like the way marriage is these days. When you're looking for a wife, you're like, oh, you know, maybe you can help me pay for fees as I pay for the rent, or maybe you can pay rent as I pay for school fees, or you can do this and do that. So in politics, that's what happens. You're looking for someone who can help you bring in the other cake that you're missing. The reason why Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto were able to win elections in 2013 against seasoned politicians, at that time, Raila Odinga, Kalonzo Musyoka, Mudavadi and all that, is the way the politics were mobilized. Understand the environment of politics in Kenya. In an ideal world, you don't care who you pick as a running mate. Oh, you guys are giving us, what's your manifesto? What do you want to do for us? We'll vote for you. We'll compare on that. In Kenya, our politics is mobilized around numbers. And where are the numbers? They're in tribes. Committed, you're saying it's ethnically mobilized.
Okay.
So you'll be looking like, who can lock a base? If you look at Western Kenya, who do you think in Western Kenya can lock a base? If you're looking, for instance, at Central Kenya, which region can help you lock the base, and who exactly can help you mobilize and lock that base?
Okay.
So,
Academic.
Rigathi,
On Saturday,
yeah,
they were looking at who can lock the Mount Kenya base.
Yes.
If you look at all those
Basic.
names that were
very
featuring,
basic. So, when you look
It
at
was
Rigathi,
Rigathi, it was Kindiki, it was Governor Waiguru, it was Ndindi Nyoro, it was, who else was there? There's Speaker Muturi.
yes,
right?
Muturi was there.
All those Central Kenya. Now, I mean, they're not names that have just been drawn out of a hat suddenly on Saturday. They already had prepared themselves as they were getting towards Saturday. So what exactly was happening on Saturday? Why did it take so long to narrow down on Rigathi Gachagua?
Okay, in what I'm getting, in terms I'm getting, there was a headlock between Rigathi Gachagua and Kithure Kindiki. Kithure Kindiki has been lobbying very intensely to run as a running mate. And Gachagua as well believed he has been in the course long enough to deserve a running mate position. And the DP took time to describe every other person who wanted to be the running mate individually. Describe Waiguru differently. She's an amazing woman, has a good track record as a woman, this and this and that. Describe Justin Muturi, this and that. Described Samson. That's when I knew Samson. Ndindi Nyoro is called Samson. Described Samson Ndindi Nyoro. He was described. Described Kithure Kindiki. He's been through the gallows with him. And then he described Rigathi Gachagua. Excellent mobilizer. Bold. Loyal to the cause and all that. I mean, in short, he was telling you what he was looking for in his running mate. Is Rigathi Gachagua all that? Kindiki is a good gentleman. And in politics, we have enough evidence that gentlemanness doesn't pay. If being a gentleman paid, Mudavadi would have been president. If being a gentleman paid, Gideon Moi would have been president. Kalonzo Musyoka would have been president. All these gentlemen that you see in politics. Sometimes you have, first of all, to win an election. What does it take to win an election? It takes mobilization. Rigathi Gachagua has a base that he has mobilized. And Rigathi Gachagua is the only person who can look Uhuru in the eye. Can Kindiki do that? He cannot. Because now, Uhuru has said he's going to start campaigning soon as a chairman of Azimio. You need someone who can look him in the eye at his base and tell him you're not going to buy your story. Gachagua has done that several times. he has shown the capability to do that, to counter Uhuru Kenyatta in central Kenya. So if at all you're going to maintain central Kenya as it is, you need a strong figure that can mobilize and can also be bold in what he says. And that is why he picked Rigathi Gachagua. On the flip side, it could be what we are seeing right now. We are having a government where the president and the deputy president are fighting. With this boldness and these mobilization skills, what risk does Gachagua give to William Ruto as the president? It's on the place that it could be dangerous. But now I think the priority is let's win the election. History ingine tutakanyagiana pale mbele. So talking about Saturday, the gridlock that was there, the deadlock that was there, I want to imagine that every other person was lobbying. And I can tell you this, if you are participating in a political process, you understand that there are things called interest. And they play out at the last minute.
How would it play out, looking at it at party level, if from what we've seen, all indications that was that the popular individual was Kindiki, and then the selection was made based on what the DP himself was looking for? How will it play out from where you see it then in party, in internal party politics moving forward? That this is what we would have wanted to happen as the party.
I think the
this is
biggest
what the
test,
leaders, picked. Do we see a rift then forming?
I'm not seeing any rift forming. For instance, the biggest test for parties were nominations. If a party survived the nomination debacle it was, the way people complained it was shambolic and all that, but people have moved on. Politics is so beautiful. We cry overnight like Kenyans. Now you're going to cry about the cost of fuel. The next day we are good. We are fueling. We are all lining up to fuel. The same way, they're having a gridlock on the expressway. We are paying, and we say this thing we are not going to climb up on it. We hop on it. So politics is mobilized that way. Unalia kidogo alafu unaitwa unaambiwa sasa wewe na vile maneno imekaa wewe utakutafutia mahali ukae. So there was you analyze your risk. What was the risk of not picking Gachagua? You had seen it already playing out in Nyeri, and Nyeri has been almost DP's base, William Ruto's base. What was the risk of losing Gachagua over losing Kindiki? So there is a lesser risk in losing Kindiki than losing Rigathi Gachagua, and I think it's the candidate who is running, who wants to win an election. He has to make a decision whether he wants to listen to his people and lose an election, or he makes a decision on what it takes. He knows it takes to win an election and win that election and ensure that everybody has a play. I can tell you this: the government is a jungle. Did you ever know there was something going to be formed called CS positions? They are there to cater for people like these guys who are complaining. Tulia, tukiingia serikali tapata yako. The other day I was driving through Karen and I realized there's actually an institution that deals with nuclear energy in this country.
Yep.
And you wonder, where is the nuclear energy?
We see you're working on it.
Nikazi. So, Kithure Kindiki, of course, has a place. I don't know which statement he's going to make today, but it's too late to make any...
Why do you say it's too late?
Which move can he make? For instance, leave Kenya Kwanza?
No.
Okay, so what can he do?
She can vie.
As who? President?
No, as senator.
Then that is the best option that he can do. He can, because you wanted to be governor, but now we are done with the nomination process. Is the party willing to revoke the certificate that was given to the candidate there and give him a direct ticket?
He can go as independent.
So is it that he is the one who has waited until it's too late, or is it that the processes that our political parties put in place disadvantage any people who might be disgruntled? Meaning it's at the 11th hour and the options you're left with are all glum. They are all, they are non-options, so to speak. Because if you're talking about negotiations, why is it that in our politics people feel that if you don't get what you thought you would get, you must move to another party? Why don't you just stay within the party? After all, it is your party.
And
those positions, it's one position. It's not as though there were 10 and the other, and everybody got except yourself.
Yes, and that's what I keep telling these guys, that you can only have one running mate. You cannot have 10, you cannot have 5, you cannot have 3. You can only have one running mate. And in every competitive decision like that, people are going to lose, unless you're going to compete alone. But if you're competing with other people, you have to accept that you could lose and you could be the winner. On the flip side, think about what if you had been picked. What could have happened to other people? So what Kindiki can do? He's a good guy. He's a sober gentleman, and I know he's going to renegotiate again within the coalition, Kenya Kwanza coalition, and get something. Look at Moses Kuria. Moses Kuria yesterday, he had made a post that is a sad day in central Kenya. By evening, he was giving us news that he has been given the chairmanship of the economic task force within the Kenya Kwanza campaign. So at this point, as a politician, you have to choose your bed early. And that's the problem that is happening even on the national platform. If you don't choose your bed early, then you have a problem. Ikifika mahali kumbe kitanda iko yako, then you have to be comfortable sleeping on the cold, either sleeping in the cold or negotiating for a bed sheet. Naambia sawa umechukua kitanda lakini zaidi ya bed sheet ijifunike. That's the best way to negotiate. But if you want to say you're going to move out of the house, then there's nothing you can be sure about out there. So Kindiki, he has to accept that the process as it was also political. It was not an interview to work in a company. It was political. So sometimes the political questions, the advantages, the pros and cons has to come at play.
It has to play.
Yeah.
Let's look ahead into what expected to happen today on the Azimio side. So Raila, who is the flag bearer for Azimio, One Kenya coalition party, has said today, Satano, is going to announce his running mates. The people who presented themselves to the interview panel are those that now appear to be close. So there's Martha Karua, there's Kalonzo Musyoka, there's Peter Kenneth, there's Sabina Chege, there's Peter Munya. Who else?
Sabina Chege. Oh, you mentioned Sabina Chege. Yes, yeah.
Those five. Right?
There's Stephen Tarus. Former Ambassador Stephen Tarus.
Ambassador Stephen Tarus.
Yes.
Okay.
Kalonzo Musyoka?
Yes, I did.
Well done.
I can say it again.
Please do.
Kalonzo Musyoka.
He might want you to do that.
Looking at those, where do you see the chips falling? Let's start with you, Gerald.
First of all, I think if I was to advise Raila Odinga, I would tell him to pick Kalonzo Musyoka. If there is one political suicidal move that Raila Odinga is going to make, is going to Central Kenya to pick a running mate.
Why?
He'll lose if he was losing at 6:30 a.m., he'll lose at 5.
Why?
Here's the reason. Within the choices that he has for Central Kenya, who can counter Rigathi? Is it Kanini Kega? Kanini Kega was accused the other day of selling Raila
Kanini is
like
not
bang.
in the running, but stop it.
I'm going to Central Kenya. I'm just thinking, just throwing a wild card in the people that you could have. His allies.
So
his allies.
Don't bring.
I'm starting from the bottom, coming up.
No.
So you
All
pick from the list.
Okay,
We have
all
a list of six.
Let's look at Martha Karua. Martha Karua has lost a political bid twice. He lost the other day gubernatorial, and I think she also saw she was losing the other day, and he decided to play the national politics. We saw what happened when he tried to take Raila Odinga to Kirinyaga. Yes, Kirinyaga. You saw what happened there. I mean, our mobilization skills are at question. Now, the next person would be Peter Kenneth.
Yes.
Peter Kenneth, how many years has Peter Kenneth been in the political cold? And how much has he been able to mobilize? Look at Central Kenya as it is. The two people have been accused, and even more, the allies have been accused of not selling Raila Odinga in Central Kenya. When you go to Central Kenya, you find billboards and posters, there's no Baba. But in Nairobi, they talk about Baba. So who can counter the wave that William Ruto and Rigathi Gachagua are going to create there? Who can Raila pick that he believes? Not unless he's going to pick Uhuru Kenyatta as a running mate. But of all the choices that he has, Peter Kenneth, he cannot deliver. Martha Karua, he cannot deliver.
Sabina Chege,
she cannot deliver.
Peter
That is
Munya.
for a fact. Peter Munya is struggling even to fight the Kiretu Murungi wave in Meru. So he cannot deliver. That's for a fact. Now, if I was Raila Odinga, I'll pick Kalonzo for this reason. Pick Kalonzo Musyoka and start a narrative that only two communities cannot run the country. Very beautiful narrative. It's clear.
So you completely alienate that Mount Kenya 5 million votes.
5 million votes, who is carrying them? Is the question. Because I look at the mobilization scheme as it is.
The votes are up for grabs, man.
Politics is very scientific. It's about mobilization. How does the ground feel when a certain person goes there to speak to them? It has been very obvious. What happens when Martha Karua tries to mobilize? It's been obvious. You've seen it. What happens when Peter Kenneth tries to mobilize? You've seen it. You've seen what has happened. What happens when Sabina Chege tries to mobilize? And the most interesting thing about these candidates for running mate from Central Kenya is they never campaign in Central Kenya. The only time they're seen in Central Kenya is when Baba is in Central Kenya. The moment Baba leaves, they leave all of them. Now you're seeing Sabina Chege in Migori or Homa Bay campaigning at Baba's bedroom. There's no votes that you're going to get for Raila Odinga extra from Homa Bay. Peter Kenneth campaigns in Nairobi only when they are rallies. Martha Karua, have you seen any campaigns that she does in Central Kenya? So if you was to advise Raila Amolo Odinga, in all honesty, go for Kalonzo Musyoka
and leave the others. Ndu, who would you go for?
It's a narrative.
If you were to advise Raila Odinga today.
I mean, look, it would, because of what all the calls are at the moment, that it seems as though he does need to woo the Central Kenya vote at this point. Plus, I mean, we've also heard the calls that they feel as though the women have been left out of his campaign. That would make sense for him to then do that, because then there is a clarion call for him to look at women as part of his campaign. I would probably say that he would be able to then have this double-edged sword of going for a woman and somebody who's from Central Kenya who could move the vote, who could move in numbers. Martha Karua seems like a good choice for him, who's been stable in her politics.
Do you
Loss
think
or
she can
win,
mobilize
regardless.
a substantial number of votes? Because running mate is also coming in. Can you mobilize the votes in our support? Not necessarily in Mount Kenya, but in any other base.
I think she could. I mean, the same thing we're saying, start a new narrative here, whereby you say, this is somebody that I'm presenting to you as an option. Start a new narrative. And who's to say that you cannot do that? And it's never too late to that. You can. Start a new narrative.
It's a question of, if I'm to comment on what Ndu is saying, before I say what I want to say, it's a question of whether the Azimio candidates or personalities from Central Kenya are willing to support Martha Karua, or whoever they're because on her, this isn't a question of how many votes can Martha Karua bring. It's that group of people from the mountains, are they able to marshal sufficient votes? And then there's the question of what you call sufficient votes. See, my view, we've never had an election such as this one.
No.
There are very many balls right up in the air, okay? Against a backdrop of whatever Raila Odinga may or may not have gotten in Central Kenya has always been a subject of debate. There is the narrative that was spread for the longest time, which proved to be extremely effective. And so now trying to reverse that particular narrative to say that Raila is a possible candidate, the narrative I've heard which comes closest to trying to address it is, both these candidates are bad, but one is worse than the other. And I'm thinking, God Almighty, what sort of narrative is that? Anyway, there is the view that Raila himself cannot marshal votes just as Raila in Central Kenya. It's a fallacy, in my view. It's a fallacy because to say that is to assume that in all the years Raila Odinga has been in politics, there are no people in Central Kenya who can actually vote for him. That the DP is popular in Central Kenya is not a subject of debate. It's just a fact. So what percentage of votes are we talking about? Now, if I'm to go by the nominations that we saw that ended, and I look at the numbers that actually came in for the nominations, it was a dismal number. And then we have this unique situation where there is no one of substance that is from the mountain who is actually vying for the presidency. So how will Central Kenya vote this time around? Because it has never been tested when one of their own isn't actually vying and isn't a visibly viable candidate. How are they going to vote? And when you say how they're going to vote, is Nyeri going to vote the same as Murang'a? Is Murang'a going to vote the same as Kirinyaga, as Kiambu, as those are the questions that I'm asking myself, because when people talk of the mountain, it's like there's this homogeneous understanding, and I'm saying
maybe not.
Maybe not.
Just to remind you, by the way, there's a Kikuyu presidential candidate.
Which one?
Jimmy Wanjigi.
I didn't mention Jimmy Wanjigi because I actually included him when I made the statement. There is yes, you heard what I said.
Nice save. So what about you, Eric?
I think I want to approach it from this angle. From the formation of this coalition. First, we started with Azimio. Azimio was Jubilee, ODM, and then the others started joining in. Maendeleo Chap came, DAP-K, the others were joining. But it was Jubilee, ODM as the principals in Azimio. Then there's One Kenya on the other side, which is Wiper and KANU primarily. And then the others also joining in. What's the name of Jirongo's party? That one.
It's called DP. No, DP is the other.
No.
Yes, there's
Yep, Kenya is a different one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
So-
Jirongo has a party.
So Azimio, one side, and One Kenya, the other side. Then they come together, One Kenya, Azimio, One Kenya. And they meet. Who brings what to the table? Raila Odinga brings his political pedigree and the numbers that he has to the table, right? Jubilee is fractured, is wounded, but it has the president who's in office. Okay? What does Uhuru bring to the table? I've always said, Uhuru brings the table to the table. And says, okay, ndio hii meza, kujeni. Na akona viti kadhaa. One Kenya joining up with Azimio was basically One Kenya coming to Azimio. So it was Kalonzo coming to Uhuru and Raila. Right? The reading is on the wall. From what we saw from Dan Mahanzo speaking yesterday, from what we've been seeing from Senator Enoch Kwambua, the writing is on the wall. Mene Tekil Was it? Ofasin. Things are done. It's done for Kalonzo. He's not it. I don't think Kalonzo is the candidate that's going to be unveiled today. Otherwise, his insiders would not be making the kind of noise they're making.
All the moves they're making as of this
overnight.
morning. Yeah.
They wouldn't. So Kalonzo out. Now, Peter Kenneth and Sabina Chege are the Jubilee nominees for this position.
And they're both from Murang'a.
Why did Uhuru nominate Peter Kenneth and Sabina Chege as his nominees to this position? They're both from Murang'a. Murang'a has never produced a president or a vice president. Well, we could argue about Professor Joseph Joguna. He was Kiambu, though.
Karanja was Kiambu, Baba.
So no vice president and no president. And Murang'a people have been grumbling, kichini chini. So I'm left with those two. So it's either going to be Martha Karua or Peter Kenneth or Sabina Chege. Any of those three.
Can that ticket win an election?
Which one?
Either of the two.
Yes.
Or the three.
Yes.
Or one cow.
Remember where the table is.
Remember who's bringing the table?
They go be the table. There's nothing to eat on the table. If nobody is bringing anything. What is that?
You see the
Campaigns, like you said, we are starting to campaign now.
yes.
All the work that you've been doing that has been done previously can be undone
Yes.
by
The same
visibility.
narration of an idea that you talked about. That formation can start now.
But I can assure you guys.
By visibility,
I
by
want to
conversation,
give you a
by
plate.
ground, by everything.
I want
The
to tell you.
mobilization that can be rolled out by the Azimio One Kenya from this point on
Yes.
to the end.
I'll tell you
Can
this.
be mind-boggling.
I'll tell you this. I've participated in campaigns
Yes.
actively. I've drawn campaign strategies. I've been in the game of the campaigns. In politics, I've been in politics. Not long enough, but I've been in it enough to know that traction matters.
We've taken note of the disclaimer, but go on.
And I
Yes.
can assure you, and I want to tell you these guys here. We have less than 84 days to the general elections. From everything that you're seeing around, either the disorder or the order that you're seeing in any of these political formations, the way it is right now is exactly the way it will be in September. Nothing will change, hardly. The only thing that might change is the narrative. You're seeing the narrative that's being shaped now to your opinion polls and all that. Narrative could come out very strongly. That's what is going to happen. The DP side will be branded as corrupt, and these are stories now. They have a corrupt ticket and all that. There'll be a lot of narratives flying.
So who do you see as a winning ticket?
These I'll tell you.
Is
Uhuru
it
Kenyatta.
Ruto
I
Gachagua?
want to look at the individuals first of all.
We have 30
Uhuru
seconds.
Kenyatta.
We have 30 seconds.
Uhuru Kenyatta will not be able to do much right now in Central Kenya. To reverse much. He will not be able to reverse much. Raila Odinga will not be able to make any more inroads in Central Kenya and any other region whatsoever. Those are the tickets. Now we're looking at the other ticket. It's already galvanized. They have been doing it. So Central Kenya will remain as it is. It will not move. And Rift Valley will remain as it is. And Western Kenya, Musalia Mudavadi Wetangula will chip in with the votes that NASA had previously. The only ticket that was going to give Ruto a run for the money is from NASA as it was. If NASA had remained as it was, trust me, William Ruto winning an election would have been very difficult.
Now it's gone.
But I can tell you right now, Kenya Kwanza will be the pact that will be sworn in at Kasarani come September. And I'm holding my word against it.
Asante.
And I'll come back here to redeem that.
Let's hold you to that.